We'll start the new minor in this is in the Mamorim Melukotim, and this is in the Chelik base in the volume, the 4 volumes. This is Chelik base. This is the 14th minor, and this is a minor which is Baruch Sha'asa נסים Laviseinu Bayomim Mohem Bizman Hazeh. Well, this bracha you say when you bench the Hanukkah licht. You make the bracha, Baruch Atah Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam she'asa Nissim laviseinu b'yom mehem bizman hazeh. You give thanks for the miracles that Hashem did to our fathers in those days at this time. And this bracha is made anytime we celebrate a miracle, we make this bracha. This is a maimer that the Rebbe gave in Shabbos Parshas Vayeshev. Evidently, this was Hanukkah. And this was also the Shabbos Mevorchim of the month of Tevis in Tavshin Tezvav. As they say in the note over here, then later on, that's the time when the Rebbe said it. But then later on, the Rebbe published it, and it was reviewed by the Rebbe, and Muga by the Rebbe. So it says here that it Yotzel Oir Bekuntrus Chanukah Tinose. In the year Tavshin Nun Aleph, this was published, and that in association with Kesher Yimei HaChanukah, in connection with the days of Chanukah, and the date over there that it says is Erev Chanukah Shnas Hei Tinose. In the year Tavshin Nun Aleph was published, and the Maimer, he says, is a hemshech to the Maimer, the previous Maimer that starts with Pasuk Eliyahu or Yutis Kislev of that year, which is Tavshin Tezvav, which was earlier on page 99 and up. So we learned in previous Maimer of Yutis Kislev, and this is the hemshech. This is sort of a follow up to that Maimer of Pasuk Eliyahu that the Rebbe said in Yutis Kislev Tavshin Tezvav, and then later on, the next Shabbos, the Shabbos Parshas Vayeshev, Shabbos Chanukah, is when the Rebbe said. Okay, so let's do now the Maimer. B'se'ayte d'shmaya Shabbos Parshas Vayeshev, Mevorchim HaChodesh Tevis Hei Tavshin Tezvav. Baruch Sha'asa Nissim Laviseinu Bayomim Mohem Bizman Hazeh. So we're saying Baruch, we're making a bracha, we're blessing, and we're saying Hashem Sha'asa Nissim Laviseinu, who has done miracles for our fathers, Bayomim Haim, in those days, Bizman Hazeh, during this period, this time. So the Rebbe Rashab, in his Maimer that opens with the same opening, that we say the Nisim Loshen Rabim. We say Nisim in a plural. Blessed the one who made miracles, miracles in a plural. But the Nisim Loshen Rabim, when you say Nisim in a plural, doesn't only mean many miracles, but it means many categories of miracles. Hey, say this noise of Al Nisim Rabim. In addition to many miracles, Gam also Ribui Suge Nisim, also many categories of miracles. So Tzorich Lahavin. So we need to understand the Inyan Haribui, the idea of many, which is his chalkus, that is division, a lot, who be his shtalshus. That's in the evolution when it was involved, when the godliness comes down in a way that it evolves from level to level in his shtalshus. Since the root of miracles is higher than Ishtalshlus, commotion is Ba'er Le'il, B'dibur HaMaschil Posach Eliyahu, as the Rebbe explained earlier in the Maimer, that starts with Pasach Eliyahu, that the root of miracle comes from higher than Ishtalshalos. That's the difference between the conduct, natural conduct, and the miraculous conduct. The root for the natural conduct, that is from the level of Ishtalshalos. And the root of miracles comes from higher than Ishtalshalos. So, Mahu Inyan Haribui, what is this idea of the many, his Chalkus Madregas, that there is different steps? Benisim, when we talk about Nisim, Nisim seems to be beyond steps, beyond Ishtalshalos, so there should be no many. There's one big, one idea higher than Ishtalshalos. Another issue the Rebbe brings down, Gam Tzorich Lohovin, also we need to understand that which he explains in the Maimer at the end, Bepirush Nisim Laveisenu, when he explains the meaning of miracles to our fathers. So Pashat, our fathers, means our parents in the olden days were their children, but in the Kabbalah, Avoiseinu is the Sephiros of Chochmah Ubina. So there it says Avoiseinu and Chochmah Ubina. The Eibishter made the miracle Lavoiseinu to Chochmah Ubina. So what does he explain in the Maimer? What does that mean? Avoiseinu v'nez uloshun haromek Mamorim Nissi. The word nes, a miracle, he did miracles means, but nes means like when you put up a flag, you put up a nes. That's a banner. You raise it. That comes from the language of raising. Kamoy, like the Pasuk says, Orim Nisi, I will raise my banner. So that's the meaning of nes. So what does it mean? Nisim Laveseinu, the Inyan Nisim Laveseinu. What is the idea? Miracles. That is raising and an elevation in the level of Chochmah Ubina, in the level of Chochmah Ubina. So the bracha says basically that there is a nisim, there is a height, there is an elevation in Chochmah Ubina. So this needs to be explained. The tzarich biur. So we need explanation. Mahu inyan ha'aliyah b'chochmah ubina. What is this elevation in chochmah ubina? V'gam, and also mahi hashaychus the harama v'aliyah b'chochmah ubina. What is the connection when we raise and there's an elevation in the level of chochmah ubina? The Nisim Kipshutum. So how does that interpret, or how does it come down into literally miracles? Because the Pasuk says we have miracles, and we're saying here that there is an elevation in Chochmah Bina. So what's the connection that through the elevation of Chochmah Bina, we get miracles over here? This is what the Rebbe wants to explain. First of all, how come there is different nisim, not only many nisim, but categories of nisim in the level of above Ishtalshalos. And what does it explain within the Maimer that there's an elevation in Chochmah Ubina? How does that connect to the miracles literally? Based. When the Kudas Habir Bazeh, the point of this, the point for explaining this is the Shoyrish Tei HaHanhogis, the root for these two conducts. When we talk about the conduct of both Hanhoga Tivis, the natural conduct, the Hanhoga Nisis, and the miraculous conduct, have a very direct association with Chochmah Ubina. Because that comes, the root of these two conducts comes from the yichud chochmah ubina, from the union of Chochmah and Bina. When Chochmah and Bina, there is a yichud, there is a union, then you get the level of the two conducts of Hanogativis and Nogadis. Yichud Chochmah Ubina Shnei Inyanim. There is two aspects. That union sometimes produces Hanogativis, and sometimes it produces Hanoganisis, depending on how the yichud takes place. There's two aspects to that yichud. Zivuk chitzoni de Chochmah Ubina. There is sort of an external mating of Chochmah Ubina and the Chochmah Ubina get together. The zivuk zeh hu todim. That zivuk is constant. L'tzoyrech kiyum ha'olamos, for the sustaining of the world. V'hu shoyresh hanhogas hateva. That is the root of the conduct of nature. Ki von shezivuk zeh hu l'tzoyrech kiyum ha'olamos. Because since this zivuk is for the purpose to sustain the world, Lachein, therefore, we need the world to be sustained all the time. So that's the Lachein an hokas olam hanimshachas mebchina zu, and therefore the conduct of the world, which comes from that level that needs to sustain the world, Hisha Kodesh Baruch Hu manig es hanivroim sheba'olam lefi inyono. The Eibishter leads all the created being in the world according to what they are, because this is an oil that sustains them in their level. Kol nivra lefi tchunoso v'tivei. Every created being according to his characteristic and its nature. That is the union, the energy that comes from that union, Chochmah Bina, according to each one, the way they needed the ishtalshus. But the root of the miraculous conduct, what does it mean? The miraculous means that the Eibishter runs the world the way he wants it. Not according to the characteristic, the nature of the world. A miraculous hanhoga is the way Hashem wants to run the world, not in the way to sustain the world, the characteristics of the world. That comes from a zivuk pnimi de Chochmah Bina. That comes from an inner mating of Chochmah Bina. V'zehu hakesher the Nisim la'aviseinu. And this is the connection when we say miracles, when we say aviseinu, lahapirush, what we just interpreted for the Rebbe Rashab's Maimer then, Shekoyi al hadromus v'aliyas Chochmah Bina, which goes on the elevation, the raising and the elevation of Chochmah Bina im Nisim kipshutam, with literally the meaning of Nisim, Shinui HaTeva, the change of nature. While Ki Hanhoga ha'olam shenimshachas mechochmah bina, because the conduct of the world, which comes from Chochmah Bina k'moshehem mitzad atzmo, is on its own. So that is the natural, the constant zivug, kol gam including also that they are everything that comes from Chochmah Bina, and also including also the fact that they are mating in a way of zivuk chitzoni, in an external way of zivuk. That would all be a natural conduct. And to bring down the miracles, which is shinui hateva, which is the change of nature. That takes place through the elevation of Chochmah Bina. That they are misdavik. They get together in an inner zivug. So therefore, we get now miracles from that level of zivug, from that zivug pnimi, that because you raised chokhmah bina, they go in an inner zivug now, and then we get the anhoga miracles. So this explains the point of the end of the Maimer that the Rebbe Rashab says that Lavoiseinu means chokhmah bina, because through the elevation in chokhmah bina, ne'orim nisi, also nisim, when we raise them, it comes to the level of yichud pnimi, and that yichud pnimi produces miracles, nisim. Given. To explain the idea, Hashaykh is the nisim lezivuk pnimi the chokhmah bina bepratus yesal. To explain the connection of miracles to this inner union of chokhmah bina, and more specifically, Yuvan Bahagdim will understand this by introducing Mashin Isbayer Le'il, that which was explained earlier, Bedibur Hamaschil Pasach Eliyahu, in the Maimer Pasach Eliyahu. So over there we learned the Hanhogas Hateva, the conduct of nature, which means, what does it mean, conduct of nature? Shakadosh Baruch Hu manhig as kol nivra lifi inyone, that Hashem leads every created being according to his matter. The Zem Moida, that points to the fact Shaban Hogazu Hanivroim Tefsimokim, that in this conduct, the created beings take up the space, meaning they're important over there. They are an entity. Shem leads every created being according to its aspect, means that it's an entity. So that is called Hibibchinas Das Tachten. That is in the level of the lower of the two views. We have Kel Deis, the Das Elyon and the Das Tachten. That level of conduct is in the level of Das Tachten, which says that Shalamato Yesh, Ulamailo Ayin, that below is an entity, and meaning the world is an entity from that perspective of Das Tachten, Ulamailo Ayin, and above is the Ayin, is the non-graspable. But Hogan, on the other hand, but Hogan Nisis, and the miraculous conduct, Shakadosh Baruch Hu, that Hashem leads the world according to the way He wants it, not according to the characteristics and the nature of the created being. That points to the fact that in that conduct, the created being do not take up space. It's not measured by them. It goes by Hashem, because they do not count over there. It is Hashem's expression of Hashem's conduct. That's the level of the upper view. That above is the entity, and the aims, the ruch, and below is the level of ayin. That's the Das Elyon. These two views, when we place them in the idea and the concept of spheres, hem chokhmah bina. Chokhmah bina are Das Elyon and Das Tachten. Chokhmah is Das Elyon, and bina is Das Tachten. Explains the Chokhmah nirgash, in the level of Chokhmah, it is felt she'oir ein sof hu yesh ha'amiti v'kula kameki lo choshev, that the true entity is the Eir Ein Sof, like the Das Elyon. V'kula kameki lo choshev, and all before him is considered like nothing, which is Das Elyon, which is the upper view, Shalamaylo yesh ulamata ayin. That above is the entity and below is the ayin. Ubebina shehi hasoge. On the other hand, when we come to bina, so in chokhmah, which is the level of das elyon, you feel that the Ein Sof is the true yesh. But in bina, which is hasoga, bina is really understanding. That's already the nivra. That, or in this case, it's the understanding, grasping, which means hasoga himitzius yesh. Because when you grasp, it already means that there's an entity, there's a something, there's an entity there. That's you grasp with your seichel. That's the idea of bina. He das tacht. That's the das tacht. The hagam, although even in the level of bina, what are you understanding? The understanding is that everything before Hashem is considered like nothing. So how do we say that it's a yesh, but he understands that there's nothing before Hashem? That's not felt in the level of bina. That is not felt. Why? The kivon shehasoga, gam hasoga, the kula kamei kula choshev, himetzias, because since the hasoga by definition is an entity, even though it knows kula kamei, but the hasoga, even understanding, you're understanding that Kul Klameik L'Choshiv is a Metzias. It's an entity. HaMetzias the HaSoga, He Hepech HaHergesh the L'Choshiv. So the entity, if you are an entity, that you are the one that's grasping, that's opposite of the feeling that you're nothing. Because you are grasping. Yes, you're grasping that it's L'Choshiv, but in essence, the fact that you're grasping already is contrary, is opposite of lo choshev, not considered. Hine zeh shebibina hu das tacht shelemayla ayin ulamata yesh hu gam benegeya that's also as it relates to the hamshocha from chokhmah into bina. So that means that second. So that's not only is the yesh, the sense of yesh in bina itself, but also the hamshocha that comes from chokhmah to bina. The chokhmah to bina heim ayin v'yesh, because chokhmah bina are ayin and a yesh. V'ishavus habina mahachokhmah, and the way bina is brought into being from the level of chokhmah, he bidugmas his havus yesh mi'ayin. This is similar to the creation of yesh mi'ayin. Bina from chokhmah is yesh from ayin, and therefore, so just when the creation of yesh mi'ayin, ha'ayin hu behelem mehayesh, the ayin is hidden from the yesh. That's why we call it ayin lefi she'ein musag, because he's not grasping the yesh. So the ayin is not felt. He's not there. So the entity doesn't feel its source, doesn't get the source. Bina, in this case, does not get chokhmah. It's yesh ma'ayin. Zeh shaha'ayin eine musig b'hayesh. The fact that the ayin is not graspable in the yesh, hu lo rak mitzad hayesh, shehu be'ein haroich leha'ayin. It's not only with regards to the yesh that he is not comparable to the ayin. So that's why he doesn't have the ability to grasp the ayin, because the ayin is much greater, incomparably higher than the yesh. But elagamitz had the ayin. Also from the perspective of the ayin, shehu ha'ayin misalem mihayesh, that the ayin hides himself from the yesh. As it's known, this habus yesh me'ayin, the creation of yesh me'ayin, hu al yidei she'hakoyach eliki ha'ayin ha'mahabes hanivra hayesh, that the godly power, which is the ayin, which brings into being the nivra, the created being, which is the yesh, mis'alem me'hanivra, he hides from the nivra. He says the reason why it's yesh me'ayin, it's not only, this is what I said in the bracket over here, it's not only because the source, the ayin, is so much higher than the yesh, than the nivra, but it's also from the perspective of the ayin hides itself from the yesh, that the godly power, which is the ayin that creates the nivra, hides itself from the nivra. So similar to normally the normal yesh ma'ayin, so al derech zeh who be his havus habina mehachochma is also similar to this, is the creation when bina comes from chochma. There's also this idea that in that hamshacha from chokhmah to bina, chokhmah is not come down, and that hamshacha is because the level of chokhmah hides itself from the level of bina. Zeh shahabinahu yesh. The reason why the bina is an entity, who lifi sha'ayin the chokhmah misalem mehabina. That is because the level of ayin of chokhmah hides itself from bina. V'hagam shahasoga the bina ibn kudas hachokhmah. But what does it mean that chokhmah hides itself from bina? But isn't bina articulating that point of chokhmah? So that means that chokhmah needs to be in bina. What it understands is the point of chokhmah. Shabina maseges nekudas hahaskola, that the bina grasps the point of the haskola. The point of the haskola, that's the chokhmah. And bina grasps it. So what are we saying? That the point hides itself from bina. Hare iker hachochma, the main part of chochma, who hariya the chochma shalamaylu v'sechel. The main part of chochma is the vision. The chochma sees it, which is beyond sechel, which is beyond intellect. The inyan zed, that aspect of chokhmah, of seeing things beyond, just to see things beyond seichel, that does not draw down, that does not extend at all in bina. So, number one, bina does not really get the main part of chokhmah at all. Chokhmah blocks itself from bina. But not only that, even the haskola, the chokhmah shanim sheches babino, even the part of the intellect, the logic part of the seichel, which is in Chochmah, which does come down the bina. That's the nekuda haskola. He be iker hanochas hanefesh. It's mainly the place where the nefesh rests. Vaseichel shaba hurak achitzonius. The part of the intellect which is in that is only external part. Even in the Nekudas HaSeichel, which comes, Hanochas HaNefesh means it's just that makes sense that it's just, you know, it's just there. You feel it, you know, it's the Nefesh feels it, but it's not the logic, it's the Hanochas HaNefesh. It also has seichel, which is an external part. Umasha musik bibina, that which is understood in bina. Urak haseichel shebenizkudas haaskola hachitzonius. That's only the logic which is in the point of the haskola, the external part. Avul hanocha shebenikudas haskola, but that hanocha that makes sense, that just the sensing of it, which is in the point of the haskola, which is apnimis va'asmis shelo, that is the inner and the essence of that nekudas haskola. U'b'chinas ayin legabe habina she'ena musig bo. That's also in the level of ayin relative to bina. It's not graspable to bina. This that we say that the das elyon, with this explanation, we can explain why is the das elyon davke chochma, mashenkin bibina, but not in bina avshe bibina musogim ho inyonim shebechochma. Even though Bina grasps the ideas which are in Chochmah, that is who das tacht. That is das tacht. Kizeh shebechochmah hu das elyon shelamata ayin. The fact that Chochmah is the supreme das, the view that is shelamata ayin, that below is nothing. That is the feeling that everything before Hashem is considered like nothing. It's not from the perspective of the seichel, which is in Chochmah. That part is a metzias. The seichel is an empty. Opposite of the feeling lechoshim. That was the argument before, also for Bina, that it is by definition seichel is an entity, which is the opposite of the feeling lechoshim. So also in Chochmah, it's not the seichel part of Chochmah, elo mitzad haprimis va'asmis shelo, but that is where the inner and the essence of Chochmah, shebedugmas riyas the Chochmah, which is similar to seeing in the Chochmah. So the Ma'ila Mahaseichel, which is higher than the Seichel. The key on the Zeh Shenimshach B'Habinyan Shem B'Habina Urak HaAskola the Chochmah. And since what comes down, what extends to Bina, it's only the Haskola of Chochmah, not the essence, not the Lochein B'Bina Udas Tachten. That's why in level of Bina, that's considered the lower, the Das Tachten. So we're explaining that in Chochmah, even though Chochmah also has the Haskola part, but it's not the Haskola part which is the main Das Elyon. It's the Re'iyah of Chochmah, the essence of the Chochmah, which is the sense of Kiloi Choshim. But once we talk already about Hasoga, which is what Chochmah gives to Bina, in Hasoga, that's not the Das Elyon anymore, because the fact that there is haskola, by definition, that's already a metzius, and that is already the das tachton. The fact that in bina you just get the seichel of chokhmah, shelachein habina is das tachton. That's why bina is das tachton, because it gets the seichel, the entity, not the re'iyah, which is chokhmah, which is the main part, which is the das elyon. Ubichitzoyni is bina, but this is only in the external of bina. Avol b'pnimi is bina, but in the inner part of bina, meir gam etzem ha-chokhmah. Also, there shines the essence of the chokhmah. Ba'al yidei zeh, in the inner of bina, through that chokhmah shines there as well. Gam habina hi b'bchinas das elyon. Also, the bina becomes in the level of das elyon. Ki hahergesh, the keloi choshiv shebechokmah, because that sense, that feeling that is considered like nothing, which is in the level of chokmah, meir gam bebina, that also shines into the level of bina. In this that we said before, that it doesn't shine in bina, only the intellect, that's talking about the chitzonis habina. But in pnimius habina, it also gets the pnimius of chokhmah, the level of the sense that kiloi choshev. So based on this, we can say the reason why shebezivuk pnimi the chokhmah bina nimshochim hanisim. That from the inner mating of chokhmah bina, you get extended miracles. Because the miraculous conduct, that's in the level of the das elyon. Since in the inner zivuk of chokhmah bina, which means hamshocha the chokhmah pnimi is bina, when chokhmah comes down in the inner of bina, nirgash gam bebina hadeya halyonis. Also in bina you sense the upper yud shalamata ayin, the kula kamei kiloi choshev, that below there is ayin, everything is considered like nothing. That's felt also in bina. Lochein ha'anhoga ha'nimsheches mizivuk pnimi de chokhmah bina. That's why the conduct which extends from that inner union, the chokhmah bina, Yanoga Nisis becomes the miraculous Hanoga, because now Bina gets the upper das in the inner, the Kula Kamei Kula Choshim, which is the Yoina. So that's why that brings down the Hanoga Nisis from the inner. So the Rebbe set out to explain what the Rebbe Rashab writes in the Maimer, that the Lavisenu, that through the Nesib, we raise Chokhmah Bina, you get the level, Lavisenu, you get the higher level, Orim Nisi. And the Rebbe said, what's the connection to miracles? And as the Rebbe explains here in detail, that the Zivuk Pnimi brings Taki about from the Chokhmah, the inner aspect of Chokhmah, the Kiloi Choshev of Chokhmah, to come down to Bina. And that's why that is the source of Das Elyon in Bina, which brings down the Hanogen Nisis, which is from Dalit, or Das Elyon. Dalit. But Sorik Lahovin, so we need to understand the Lefi Hanal, according to the above, Iker Hamaila Shebezivuk Pnimi the Chokhmah Bina. So the main advantage that you get through this inner union of Chokhmah Bina, HaShodesh Hanoga Nisis, which is the root for the miraculous, because the Pnimi is Zivuk, the Chitzonis, which is always, that's Hanoga Tilis, but the Zivuk Pnimi Chokhmah Bina, which is the Shodesh of the Hanoga Nisis, Al Zivuk Chitzoni, the Chokhmah Bina, on the external Zivuk of Chokhmah Bina, which is HaShodesh Hanoga Tilis, hu bebina. So it all changes by bina. Shebezivuk pnimi de chochma bina. That when there is the inner zivuk of chochma bina hergish the leichoshiv, the leichoshiv. That sense that everything is considered like not shebechochma meir gam bebina. That also shines in bina. So the difference is what goes on in bina. Does bina remain with the level of seichel, or it gets from chochma that zivuk pnimi, the sense of loichashim? But here we're saying, labeseinu zeshe emrim b'negei ניסים kipshuto. The fact that we say, when we talk miracles, literally, we say, Baruch, Sha'asa, נסים, Labeseinu, that he did miracles to our fathers. Labeseinu, and Chochma Bina. So, our fathers here mean Chochma Bina. Move on. So it's understood, Shebichdei, Sheyiyu, ניסים, Kipshuto. That even for it to be literally ניסים, Tzorich Lias, Harama, Valiyah, Gamba, Chochma, also in Chochmah needs to be that level of elevation in order to produce the miracles. It's not enough to explain that there is miracles taking place in the fact that Bina gets from a higher level from Chochmah, but also that there is a higher level in Chochmah itself. So what's the idea? This that we say that Chochmah is considered ayin, that is when we talk about Chochmah as it becomes as a source for bina. Since bina's coming about, brought into being from Chochmah. Is through Chochmah hiding from Bina. That's why then at that juncture when Chochmah hides from Bina, it's called B'Shem Ayin Shein Musar, that it's not graspable. But Chochmah itself is a yesh. Chochmah he mocker libina. That part of Chochmah that it's a source for bina. Habina atzma, and for sure bina itself. Who ayin legabe etzem hachochmah. Then that is with regards to the etzem ha-chochmah, even chochmah becoming a mocker for bina is not really what chochmah's essence is. Chochmah itself is higher than becoming. It's certainly higher than bina itself, even in the level of chochmah, as chochmah becomes a source for bina. That is ayin legabe etzem ha-chochmah. Ayin dikal. It's an ayin like it's considered like nothing, that level of chokhmah, which becomes a shadish for bina, versus what chokhmah in itself is. So according to this, in the level of chokhmah, which becomes a source for bina, the das tachten, that becomes similar to the view of the das tachten, shalamayla ayin, ulamata yesh, that higher is an ayin. So in the level of chokhmah, which becomes a mocker for bina, that's like the das tachten, that lamayla is an ayin, ulamata yesh, because relative to bina, the level of relative to bina, it's not understood. Chokhmah becomes ayin, and below is a yesh. So that's the das tachten. And when we talk about the essence of Chokhmah, which is higher than becoming a source of Bina, that is similar to the view of the Das Elyon, because relative to the essence of Chokhmah, over there, it's like the view that higher, above is a yesh, that would be the level of Chokhmah, which is higher than being a mocker to Bina. Ulamata ayin, and then the part of Chokhmah, which it becomes a mocker to Bina, and Bina are ayin. And the Rebbe adds further, the Rebbe goes further deeper and deeper. Yesh loymar shagam b'chokhmah shelamayla min mocker libina shtei dargas. And we can say that also the level of Chokhmah, which is higher than the source of Bina, over there too, there's two steps. Etzem HaChokhmah v'ha'ores HaChokhmah. The essence of Chokhmah and the shine of Chokhmah. Ki inyan zeh shebechokhmah. This idea in Chokhmah, ha'hergesh, shemoker libina hu ayin d'klei choshev. That sense, that the part of Chokhmah, which is a source of Bina, is ayin, like not considered. That's only the ray of Chokhmah, not the essence of Chokhmah. Hello, yes, it's a ray of Chokhmah, but it's a ray which is pasted, connected to the etzem. And that's why you feel so you feel that the El matters which are not Chokhmah itself are considered like nothing. And the Ha'ores HaChokhmah Shenase Moker Libino Yor Nivdalos, that Ha'ore of Chokhmah. This is a Ha'ore which is connected to the Moker. But the Ha'ora of Chokhmah, which becomes a mocker for Bina, is considered a separate Adola. Belochem hi mocker libina. That's why it is a source for Bina. It's not a source Ha'ora connected to Vukah, but it's a source that becomes separated and becomes a source for Bina. Bedugmas ayin shel yesh hanibra. This is similar to the ayin of the yesh hanibra. And that, yeah, Baha'oras, similar to the Ayesh, Baha'oras HaChokhmah Shedvuka, Be'etzem HaChokhmah, but the Ha'oras HaChokhmah, which is connected to the essence of Chokhmah, Nigers Bo Shehi Ayin, the Kaloi Choshim, the Be'etzem HaChokhmah. Whether you feel that it's Ayin, which is not counted relative to Etzem HaChokhmah. Bedugmas Ayin Shal Yesh Amiti. That's similar to that. Okay, let's leave it over here. We'll have to go over this piece again when we continue.